In this third section, we want to talk about John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill clearly stipulates there are higher and lower pleasures. So according to him, some kinds of pleasures are more desirable and more valuable than others. He says this way: it is better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. It is better to be a Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. So he actually advanced the Jeremy Bentham's utilitarian theory by clearly dividing and differentiating the pleasure between the quantity and the quality kind. But this theoretic development or advancement can be potentially even more problematic. Why is it so? The first problem is the quantity of pleasure and the choice of pleasure does not always go together. If you ask many college students about the choice between watching Homer Simpson and reading Shakespeare's, Hamlet, most students will argue and take that reading Shakespeare's Hamlet will bring higher level of pleasure than watching Homer Simpson. But anyway, most college students would watch Homer Simpson rather than reading Shakespeare's, Hamlet. And it is conundrum for utilitarianists. So there seems to be a clear discrepancy between the quality of the pleasure and people's choice. Even though a certain pleasure is higher, that does not necessarily mean people would choose it, right? So this is one conundrum that utilitarian theories couldn't answer that well. The other problem related to the differentiation between the quality and quantity in terms of measuring and understanding pleasure is, at the end of the day, who's going to define which one is higher pleasure and which one is lower pleasure, right? Here we have one case. John Stuart Mill himself works for the company which is at the time largely known as the forefront of British imperialism. At the time, Britain, as an empire, colonized many countries, and India is one of those countries. John Stuart Mill clearly went against harsh treatment of people when you are colonized other people. You have to treat people well. But he never went against the colonialism or imperialism per se, and even worked for the company known as the East India Company at the time. So, interesting thing about Mill's utilitarianism, he was a liberal and he's arguing for the individual rights and that kind of things. But at the same time, somehow he believes that British, colonial and imperial, taking over India is somehow legitimized because, from his own perspective, England, as a civilized country, has a moral right to civilize the less civilized countries like India. From his own perspective, it is better for India to be colonized for a certain period of time by the advanced and civilized country like Britain. So this quantity and quality division can be potentially problematic from a certain perspective. And also we can argue this way. He clearly mentions that it is better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. But we can extend that argumentation in such a way by comparing between Socrates and Spartacus. Spartacus, a Roman slave, at the same time a gladiator. Clearly, Socrates is the one who enjoys the higher level of pleasure, more likely mental pleasure, and which was not available to Spartacus. From a certain very simplified perspective, Socrates may be morally superior to Spartacus, but many people would argue that kind of a simple statement because Spartacus, and from a certain perspective, should be recognized as a morally desirable person, which is totally different from the case of Socrates. So we should clearly understand these potential shortcomings of this ethical theory known as utilitarianism. Thanks.